your bag anymore. I'm not doing that.
What you steal?
Stealing and helping?
But what you steal?
I don't steal anything.
You don't?
What I stole?
You stole men.
Who's the man that I stole?
Tony's. You slept with them.
Oh,
a few times.
Who? What man? What's the man? Don't play with me, someone. You.
Tamar, shut up.
Yes, you did. You're
That's
liar.
a lie.
Okay,
That's a
well,
lie.
The room went dead quiet the moment Tamar Braxton started crying. Not the loud TV-ready tears people expect from her. This was different. This was fear mixed with shock. Her phone slipped from her hand as she stared at documents she was never supposed to see outside a locked private circle. Screenshots, medical-style reports, dates circled, notes highlighted, and one name kept coming up in whispers around the room. Toni, her own sister. Insiders say Tamar froze when she realized these weren't rumors. These weren't fake blogs reaching for clicks. These were real reports, real information. And somehow they had escaped the one place she believed was safe. Family, Tamar didn't yell. She didn't explode. She just kept shaking her head, repeating one sentence over and over like she was trying to wake herself up. This was never supposed to leave us. What shattered her wasn't just the leak. It was the betrayal behind it. According to sources close to the situation, Tamar had trusted that no matter how messy things got, certain lines would never be crossed. But those lines didn't just blur. They vanished. And once fans online realized what was circulating, social media erupted. Twitter went into meltdown mode. Clips resurfaced. Old interviews were dissected frame by frame. People started asking questions Tamar never consented to answer. And the most painful part, the silence from her sister's side only made it worse. Because when Toni's name got tied to how the reports got out, Tamar realized something terrifying. This didn't come from enemies. It came from inside the family. And when betrayal comes from blood, it hits deeper than any headline ever could. What really happened behind closed doors that night? And why are insiders saying this leak could permanently change the Braxton sisters forever? Stay with this story, because what you're about to hear next makes this moment look small. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It crept in quietly. The kind of damage that starts behind closed doors and only later sets the whole house on fire. After Tamar broke down, insiders say she tried to keep everything contained. No public statements. No emotional Instagram lives. No cryptic tweets. Just silence. But silence is dangerous when secrets are already slipping through cracks. According to someone close to Tamar, she believed the damage could still be controlled if the truth stayed inside the family. What she didn't know was that it was already moving. Screenshots were being forwarded. Conversations were being paraphrased. Private context was being stripped away and replaced with speculation. And every trail kept circling back to the same name. Toni. That's when Tamar reportedly realized this wasn't just an accident. It was a chain reaction that started with one decision and spiraled out of control. What made it worse was how calculated it felt in hindsight. Insiders claim the information didn't leak all at once. It dripped out in pieces, just enough to raise eyebrows, just enough to spark conversation. But never enough to give Tamar the full picture of what people now knew about her. That slow burn is what sent her into a deeper emotional spiral. She wasn't reacting to one betrayal. She was reacting to the feeling of being watched without knowing how much of her life was already exposed. Behind the scenes, Tamar was reportedly replaying every private conversation she'd had with her sister over the years. Every moment she chose honesty over protection. Every time she assumed family loyalty was unspoken. And the more she reflected, the more one painful realization set in. She had been open in spaces where others were careful, vulnerable where others were strategic. That imbalance suddenly felt dangerous. According to sources, Tamar began questioning whether her role in the family had always been the same. The one who shares, the one whose emotions become public property. The one expected to absorb the fallout so everyone else can stay composed. That realization hurt more than the leak itself. Meanwhile, Toni's side of the story started circulating quietly. Not officially, not publicly, but through insiders who framed the situation as misunderstood. Words like concern and protection kept coming up. Claims that the information was shared to prevent worse outcomes. That framing only made Tamar feel smaller, because nowhere in that narrative was her consent mentioned. Nowhere was her right to decide when or if something personal became public. And once fans caught on to that contrast, the internet did what it always does. It picked sides. Twitter threads exploded overnight. Some accused Tamar of overreacting. Others dragged Toni for crossing a line that should never be touched. Old interviews resurfaced where Tamar talked about feeling exposed within her own family. Suddenly, those moments felt less like drama and more like warnings no one listened to. The tension finally reached a breaking point during a private exchange that insiders say was colder than anything before it. Tamar didn't cry this time. She didn't raise her voice. She asked direct questions. Who knows? How much do they know? Who else was told? The answers weren't clear. Some were vague, others were avoided completely. And that's when the second emotional bomb dropped. Tamar realized that even now, she wasn't being fully looped into what had already been shared about her life. The lack of clarity felt intentional. Whether it was meant to protect or deflect didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. According to someone close to Tamar, that was the moment she emotionally checked out. Not out of anger, out of self-preservation. She reportedly said something chilling. If I don't know what you've told people about me, I can't feel safe telling you anything ever again. That sentence alone changed the tone of everything. From that point on, Tamar began pulling back in noticeable ways. She stopped sharing personal updates even with people she once trusted. She declined appearances where family questions might come up. She avoided spaces where she felt her pain would be turned into content. Fans noticed immediately. Her energy shifted. The openness that defined her started disappearing. And that absence spoke louder than any statement ever could. Toni, on the other hand, was said to be struggling with the backlash privately. Friends claim she didn't expect the situation to fracture things this deeply. She believed time would smooth it over like it always had before. But this time wasn't healing anything. It was creating distance. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that settles in and stays. The most unsettling part is what insiders revealed next. Tamar wasn't just hurt. She was reconsidering how much access family would ever have to her inner life again. That decision alone threatened to permanently change the Braxton dynamic. Because when the most emotionally open person in a family shuts down, it doesn't just affect her. It changes everyone. And just when people thought the worst damage had already happened, a new detail surfaced that made this betrayal feel even deeper. And once that detail came out, there was no going back by the time the next details surfaced. The situation had already crossed a point of no return. What made it feel disturbingly real wasn't a blog post or a headline. It was a voice note. According to someone who claims to have heard it. A private audio recording began circulating quietly among industry circles before it ever reached the public eye. In it, Tamar's voice sounded exhausted, stripped of performance, cracking as she asked a question that froze everyone who heard it. Why am I finding out from strangers what my own family knows about me? The recording wasn't meant for release. It was sent in confidence during a moment of panic, a moment where Tamar thought she was speaking safely. Somehow, that recording became proof that the damage was deeper than anyone realized. It confirmed what fans suspected but didn't want to believe. Tamar didn't just feel betrayed. She felt ambushed. Insiders say that once that audio existed outside its original context, Tamar spiraled emotionally. Not publicly, but internally. She reportedly stopped sleeping. Her circle tightened. Trust became selective. Every conversation felt risky. Meanwhile, whispers grew louder that Toni had shared more than Tamar initially believed. Not maliciously, some said, but carelessly, assuming discretion where there was none. That assumption alone cost everything. What truly stunned people close to the family was how quickly the narrative started shifting without Tamar's input. Stories formed. Motives were assigned. Her silence was interpreted as guilt, instability, or avoidance. None of it was true. But once a narrative takes hold, truth struggles to catch up. Tamar wasn't hiding. She was protecting herself. But protection looks suspicious in a world that demands access. Then came another explosive turn. A so-called insider leak claimed there were messages exchanged between third parties referencing Tamar's private situation weeks before she ever knew it was circulating, dates, timestamps, casual language that made her pain sound like discussion material. When Tamar saw those screenshots, something reportedly broke inside her. This wasn't damage control gone wrong. This was proof that her life had been discussed without her, framed without her, and shared without her consent. The most chilling part wasn't the content. It was how normal it sounded to everyone else. Like her boundaries were optional. Like her pain was manageable collateral. That's when Tamar made a decision that shocked even those closest to her. She stopped explaining. No more defending. No more clarifying. She realized every word she offered only fed a machine she never agreed to power Toni. On the other hand, was reportedly grappling with a different reality. Sources say she felt misunderstood and overwhelmed by the backlash. She believed she had acted responsibly, even protectively. But responsibility without consent is still violation, and that truth became harder to avoid. Attempts at reconciliation stalled. Conversations circled without landing. Apologies felt conditional. Tamar didn't need justification. She needed acknowledgement. And without it, the emotional distance hardened. Family members felt the shift immediately. The glue that once held gatherings together felt brittle. People spoke carefully. Topics were avoided. Support became silent because choosing sides felt dangerous. The fracture wasn't loud. It was heavy. Publicly. Tamar's fans grew restless. They sensed the pain. They read between the lines of every appearance, every lyric repost, every absence. Social media turned into a battlefield. Some demanded answers. Others begged for privacy on her behalf. Old clips resurfaced where Tamar spoke about boundaries and feeling exposed. Those moments now felt prophetic. The pressure to speak grew louder by the day, but insiders say Tamar resisted. She understood something crucial. Once she spoke, she couldn't take it back. And the version of the story that mattered most to her was the one she lived with, not the one trending online. The final twist came quietly, almost unnoticed at first. Tamar reportedly turned down a major opportunity that would have put her back in the spotlight immediately. Not because she couldn't handle it, but because it required openness she no longer felt safe giving. That decision shocked industry insiders. It wasn't about money or exposure. It was about control. For the first time, Tamar chose peace over visibility. That choice alone confirmed how deeply she had been affected. This wasn't a temporary rift. It was a recalibration of how she lived, loved, and trusted. The chilling question now hangs in the air. If Tamar ever speaks, will it be to heal, or to finally draw a line no one can cross again? And if she doesn't, what does that silence mean for a family built on shared stories? Because some leaks don't just expose information. They expose fault lines. And once those cracks appear, everything standing on them becomes unstable. The story isn't over. It's just waiting for the moment when someone finally decides that truth matters more than comfort. If you've made it this far, then you already feel it. This isn't just celebrity gossip you casually scroll past. This is the kind of story that sticks with you. The kind that forces you to question loyalty, privacy, and what family really means when cameras and clout are involved. Tamar's silence right now is louder than any interview she could give, and what happens next could change everything. But here's the truth. Most people won't say out loud. Stories like this don't move forward unless people pay attention, unless voices are heard, unless the conversation refuses to die quietly. That's where you come in. If you believe Tamar deserved control over her own story, hit that like button right now so this video reaches more people who need to see it. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, drop a comment and say exactly what you would do in her place, because this situation is bigger than fame. And if you don't want to miss the moment when this story finally breaks wide open, you need to subscribe and turn notifications on. Because when Tamar decides to speak, it won't be soft and it won't be subtle. It will be on her terms, and the fallout will be massive. Don't scroll away and forget this. Don't let this become another story that fades without accountability. Stay part of the conversation. Share this video with someone who understands how deep betrayal can cut, because silence protects the wrong people, and attention is the one thing that keeps the truth alive. You're not just watching a story unfold. You're witnessing a turning point. And if you blink, you might miss the moment everything changes. You might miss the moment everything changes.